free to give us a call. Love to hear from you.
I don't think we're taking calls quite yet. But
right, we are, but, we don't mind putting you on hold for a little while. Let's see. I guess what we can touch on next is you have an announcement.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So for all of our Internet viewers and people who may be familiar with our sister show, The Atheist Experience in Austin, I'm going to use this opportunity to make a call out. I'm going to call Matt Dillahunty out, and to prove once and for all which one is the superior show, we're going to try to appeal for him to play a game of Street Fighter II HD Turbo Remix over Xbox Live. So if you're watching Matt Dillahunty, you better put up or shut up, my friend. Put up or shut up. So I don't know if he owns it or not. Maybe we can get a collection going to give him the $9.99 over PayPal so he can download it. But maybe regardless,
maybe we should take tithes over the call line so we can get some money in for the show, and we can hook him up with Street Fighter 2. Now I've seen you play. Play.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, wasn't that the game you played at the tournament that you were in a couple weeks ago?
Was
the Monkey Bar?
Oh yeah. Oh well.
Yeah, I've seen you play.
We shouldn't even bring that up.
I've seen you play. I'm sorry, Matt. It's gonna be very painful. It's gonna be very painful. But you're a terrific guy. So even if you can't play Street Fighter 2 as good as Casey, that's just my early. It's just my early determination. Anyway, so we got some other things going on.
Right.
We have some news. News and
I think we try to switch it up here. We try to keep it. Not all of it has to be heavy, and not all of it has to be about people sexually abusing young children. So one of these that came, I think it came on Monday of last week, is from AOL News. It was the headline is entitled "Saudi Clerics Advocate Adult Breastfeeding."
Adult breastfeeding.
Yeah. No, hold on right now. So women in Saudi Arabia should give their breast milk to male colleagues and acquaintances in order to avoid breaking strict Islamic law forbidding the mixing between the sexes. Two powerful Saudi clerics have said. A fatwa issued recently about adult breastfeeding to establish, quote, maternal relations and preclude the possibility of sexual contact has resulted in a week's worth of newspaper headlines in Saudi Arabia. Specifically, I think his name is, I'm probably butchering this, Al Obeikan, who made the statement after being asked on TV about a 2007 fatwa issued by an Egyptian scholar about adult breastfeeding, said that the breast milk ought to be pumped out and given to men in glass. But his remarks were followed up by an announcement by another high-profile sheikh, Abi Ishaq al-Huwaini, who said that men should suckle the milk directly from the woman's breast.
So you're saying that O'Heiny and O'Bacon have issued a fatwa that adult men should be drinking breast milk?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
And so it says here. This is a little funny bit. Shortly after the two sheiks weighed in on the matter, a bus driver in the country's eastern region reportedly told one of the female teachers that he drives regularly and that he wanted to suckle milk from her breast. And the teacher has threatened to file a lawsuit against him.
Wow,
so there are consequences.
I guess it speaks for itself.
Right. And here's the last bit on here, and this is always at the end of the story, kids. Read this article at the end of the story, because sometimes the most interesting stuff is there. The original adult breastfeeding fatwa was issued 3 years ago by an Egyptian scholar at Egypt's Al-Azhar University, considered Sunni Islam's top university. Azat Atiyah was expelled from the university after advocating breastfeeding of men as a way to circumnavigate segregation of the sexes. So this is a very radical interpretation, even in a place like Egypt, where they're a majority Muslim country. So,
Yeah, well, it could have been that copy of Lactation magazine that they found in the copy of the Quran. We don't know. We don't actually know the real facts, do we?
No.
So I haven't been keeping track of all the fetish fatwas, but I think that's a good opener for it. I like that.
Yeah, maybe high heel shoes. Maybe they banned high heel shoes or something.
Assless chaps? Who knows? Who knows where the Quran is going to take us?
Well, this is an awfully silly story, and we should always take care to sort of put this in perspective, because I think people who've been to other parts of the world and who know a little about other parts of the world is that obviously some people have ways of going about doing things that are a little different than us, and we're making a joke out of this because it does sound equally absurd. And I think if there's a criticism as atheists that we have, or that I would have at least personally about this, is not that it kind of seems silly to us that adult women shouldn't be breastfeeding adult men. It's that it's a fatwa. It's actually a use of a religious edict. It's a law.
Yeah.
It's basically a commandment from one of the higher authorities of the church of Islam to command people to do this. So it's not just people doing things because it's tradition, because there are an awful lot of things that we in America wouldn't agree with. I think female genital mutilation would be one, where it's a tribal custom. I believe it's a tribal custom that's practiced, and that we find abhorrent. But for reasons just that are inherent to their own culture, they find it to be totally acceptable. So from our standpoint, this is not just kind of the yuck factor and how silly it is, but it's also in how things that are that people find demonstrably silly, like the woman who's a bus driver, who then threatened to sue, use the secular legal system. Actually, I don't know if it's secular in Saudi Arabia. I would imagine it's not secular.
Yeah, I don't know.
But obviously, some people find this offensive, and I think, and this is why we're so concerned with the separation of church and state. When our law gets to the point where we're actually making laws and enforcing laws, so based on someone's idea of doctrine, because this is clearly a minority opinion about Sunni law, then it's repressive. I mean, then it becomes a tool for repression, and that's the kind of thing that we want to fight against. Whether it's the Texas school board, the school board education curricula, or it's putting the Ten Commandments, or even putting nativity scenes on the lawn, which
on public property.
Which Seattle Atheist they do. We oppose that generally, because we think that whenever you force your particular dogma onto other people and make it law, then that's the beginning of oppression.
Yeah, with regards to the nativity or things like that, some sectarian display, I think it's, you can have it in your home, in your business, on your car, any private property. But when it comes to putting that sort of thing on public space, I think that's foul. So anyway, I have a story as well.
Oh, go ahead.
This came from Popular Mechanics. This one is one of those rare, how they have that saying about atheists in a foxhole, how they don't exist. Well, here's a guy who, in World War II, runs contrary to that notion. Basically, here's a guy who survived a shipwreck in World War II. He was on the Indianapolis, which out of 1,300 sailors, only 316 survived. Anyway, he talks about the delusion that some of the sailors had gone while they were, obviously the ship was sunk by a torpedo. And as they're floating in the water, he's talking about how everybody had their own tactics to survive. And his tactics to survive was that it was just sheer willpower. He didn't believe in the fact that he was going to heaven. He didn't think it was going anywhere. He's just like, this is all I have. It's here and now, and I'm going to stay alive and do what I can to stay alive. And that runs completely contrary to atheists in a foxhole. And for me, I've always found that notion to be very insulting. That everyone would immediately fall back on some heavenly persona to save them from something. There are plenty of atheists who are in military service, and they serve honorably. And in fact, I know that there are some who feel like there's a lot of religious overtones in their daily lives. The chaplains are very aggressive. There's their commanders tend to be very hard on atheists. There's actually several lawsuits. So atheists are out there. They're serving in the military and they're serving honorably. So I think that's a great example of that.
And I think we were talking about this before. I mean, this begs a larger question, I think, about agency, because I think we all remember when that plane landed on the Hudson. You saw headlines and people saying, "Oh, well, it's so miraculous." I mean, they're couching this in terms of things that did not happen naturally, things that there was a natural course of the way things happen, and something other kind of picked it up and changed the outcome, basically. And part of that sounds offensive to me. I mean, I know it's just our language, right? So we've adopted things like miraculous. We've kind of adopted that adjective as a result of having front-loaded all this religion in our culture. But for that guy, Captain Sully, he's the hero. I mean, he's the one who's directly responsible for saving all those lives. It's not a miracle. God didn't come down and do that. Sully was a Chesterburger or whatever his name is. That guy is the one. That guy is the hero. He is the one whose agency is to credit for saving all of those lives.
Absolutely.
And I think you talking about a very recent airplane crash, right?
Right. Yeah.